Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net, and welcome to part 2 of our full stats and 3D analysis breakdown of the 2020 Australian Open men's final between Novak Djokovic and Dominic Thiem. If you want to see that full stats and analysis breakdown, stay tuned because it's coming up next. I remember when I first started coaching and teaching, one of the instructors at the club I was working at told me that the most important shots in the game, and this dates back 25 years ago, that the two most important shots were the serve and return. And at that time, I kind of scoffed at that, and I thought that was kind of a silly or funny statement. And rallying is definitely important, but the serve and return are huge parts of the game. We know we had a lot of extended rallies in this match, right? Only 53% of the points were 1-4 shots based on the stats breakdown that we did in part 1 of this series. But we're going to look at the serve and return and talk about some really key important things. So the first stat that I want to pop up on the screen is the first serve placement for both players, right? So let's look at the first serve placement for wide tee and body for both Djokovic and Thiem. And this is pretty typical for what we usually see on the tour. We usually see about a 50-50% spread for wide serves versus tee serves for most of the top players. It's not true for every single match, but we can see that's pretty true for this match, right? And it's pretty true across the board. And now for both of our players, let's start talking return to serve a little bit, and let's talk about damage, right? So doing damage to your opponent, especially on the return to serve, is really important. You want to get an advantage in the point if you can, as soon as you can. And your first opportunity as the returner is on that first strike on the return to serve. And if we look at winners versus damage at the pro level, we know for both the top men and women that you're going to do damage to your opponent 4 to 5 times as much as you are going to hit winners, okay? So damage significantly outweighs winners in a match. So let's just focus on the return to serve now, and let's look at the stats for the ball types for Djokovic and Thiem. So let's look at the percentage of their shots on the return to serve that were in-play balls. And remember, in-play balls are rally balls or neutral balls. Let's look at the percentage of their return to serves that were damaging shots. Let's look at the percentage of time they were forced into errors on the return to serve. Now let's look at the unforced errors for each guy on the return to serve. And then finally, the percentage for winners. So the biggest stat that stands out to me, right, is the double damage there for Djokovic. Djokovic did damage 35% on his return to serve versus Thiem at 17%. That's a huge difference in percentage of damage, right? So let's take a look at some of those points and how Djokovic is able to do it. All right, so we have Thiem as a server right here, right? Getting ready to serve on the deuce side. We've got Djokovic getting ready to return over here. You can see Djokovic's position. He's pretty far back when he starts on this return, so he's kind of close to zone 5 at this point, buried himself in the back of zone 4. But as Thiem gets ready to hit the serve, let's see what happens. So Djokovic makes that move forward. If you look at his original position, he's moved about a half a foot at this point. And then as he makes contact with the ball, he's moved, closer to 5 feet, 4 3/4 feet. So he moved over 4 feet to return this serve in a forward and diagonal direction. So he's taking the time that Thiem has, and he's shrinking that considerably by shrinking the distance between the two of them, okay? He's got insane hands here. And Djokovic's hands from these positions are what let him really do damage as well. He's able to redirect this ball, and he's able to force Thiem into a scramble position off of a strong first serve, right? So Thiem lands inside the baseline here, right? And he's planted at this point on that right foot. And Djokovic is about to make contact. The problem for Thiem is now Djokovic gets incredible depth on this. He's got zone 3, about as deep as it can possibly be, and almost a small target. So now look at where Thiem is compared to where he originally was. He had to scramble back quite a bit to try to retrieve this ball. Thiem does a pretty good job here of actually hooking this deep. It was really difficult to do from this spot. And then Djokovic tries to dictate again. Thiem here getting back to neutral, right? Hits a short slice there. Djokovic slices there, and Thiem gets a good look here. The problem is that when Thiem gets this look, he's got a really aggressive and good position here inside zone 3, but the problem is that he ends up just spraying that a little bit long on that particular shot, right? All right, let's look at the second example now of Djokovic doing damage on that return to serve. So we see Thiem serving here up on the top side from the deuce side, right? We've got the distance tracker between the two of them. So at this point, we can see that there's 89.9 feet of separation between the returner Djokovic and the server Thiem. As Djokovic goes to make contact, we're going to see a strong diagonal move here. And that gap now is closed over 5 feet, the distance between them. Part of that is the big move that Djokovic is making forward. And then part of that is Thiem coming inside of the court, right, off his return. Look where Thiem lands right here. Thiem immediately senses that Djokovic is hitting a strong return, even though he's in a completely lunging situation. He senses that and he starts to back up right away. So let's see how big Djokovic's move is off the split. So there's the split and he plants right here, right? So the right foot's planted. He's moved 3.1 feet at this point. Watch how much distance he covers the contact. At contact, he's at 8.9. So he covered almost 6 feet from the split here and the plant to the point of contact right here. It's a really significant amount of distance, okay? And then he's closed the gap between him and Thiem overall more than 5 feet at this point. So that's huge. So he's taking time with that giant split and then that giant move off the split. And then what he does is takes time, doesn't get in as much depth maybe as he wants here, but he's got some pace and he's moved the ball side to side, okay? So he's forcing Thiem to scramble. And then Thiem goes risky with this, plays low percentage, and he decides to go down the line. So look at the down line again here. He's in a scramble position, just rushed and uncomfortable, decides to go risky down the line. And part of that, it's the first set. He wants to take a gamble. It's 30-all in the first set, but that's a pretty risky place to do that. But again, Djokovic has incredible hands, especially from this position. His ability just kind of rolls up on this with the racket and the hand. His hands are incredible. How much control he has over the ball with them in just really bad positions. I mean, these are tough spots. Nobody else in the world is really doing this. Nadal sometimes. But what he's able to do with that, roll up on that, control with the hand, and then put Thiem in just a terrible position off of what was a really good serve. It's really remarkable, really incredible what he's doing. And other people need to implement drills that can help them get better at these things if they want to step up, in terms of their ranking and what they're doing on the court. All right, the next thing that we're going to move into is we're going to talk a little bit about return aim. So I like to take the court and I like to divide it up into 3 vertical sections. So we have the left third of the court over here, right? We have the middle third of the court here, and then we have the right third of the court. I like to break it up that way to see where we're aiming as far as cross court, down the line, and middle. And we're going to relate this to the return of serve, okay? So stats wise, what percentage of shots for both guys on the return of serve do we think went down the middle, down the line, and cross court? It's pretty remarkable. We can see both guys on the return of serve hit about 50% of their returns to the middle third of the court, right? Djokovic is at 49% and Thiem was at 59%, which is really high. The question is, why do so many return of serves go to the middle third of the court? Why aren't more going cross court? Why aren't more going down the line? Well, I've heard the myth before that in singles, you should never hit to the middle third of the court. Well, it's simply not true, because in this situation, this is one of the few situations where hitting to the middle, especially if you can hit the ball deep or hit it hard, you're catching the server in the worst possible position that they can be in. Let's look at a point from each of our guys to see why this is so effective. All right, so we have Djokovic serving from the ad side over here. We've got Thiem pretty far back, zone 5 area on his side of the court. But let's see where the serve goes. Thiem abandons zone 5, gets up closer in here, right? Closer to the baseline in zone 4. Big movement, 8.5 feet total movement from where he started back here, right? Huge move. And what he does effectively here on this particular return, comes over it with topspin, right? He's going to roll up on the ball, not slice this one. And he hits this return really deep in zone 3, really close to the baseline. Look at Djokovic's balance position. He's got 1 foot off the ground right here, and then he's really leaning on his back foot. This is about the worst position you could be in off of that return to serve, right? Now, the question is, why is this an effective tactic? So let's look at it again. Thiem closes the gap, the distance between the two. Djokovic is inside the baseline right now, because when you serve, you're going to land inside the baseline. And then it's a matter of, are you going to get a short ball and move forward? Or are you going to get a deep ball and have to back up more than likely? Because if you try to short hop it from right there, you may not even have room to hit the ball. So Thiem knows this. He hits deep right at Djokovic, right? Djokovic is on the back foot, and that's why it's such an effective tactic. If you look where Djokovic landed again, he's moved approximately 3.1 feet at this point. When he makes contact with the ball, he's had to back up, and he's shuffled back and around about another 4 feet. So he's had to scramble back. He's in a really weak defensive position, and this is why the middle return, especially off first serves, is a really effective tactic if you can get it deep, okay? Djokovic here handles that decently, but he gets damaged and he hits short in zone 2. This is Thiem's opportunity right now to rail a ball this way or crush one this way. Okay, so let's see what he does. He hits it pretty aggressively here. Zone 3 depth, pretty much, right? Small target area. Djokovic scrambles back. The only thing that could have been better about it is more depth, right? Djokovic lifts, tries to get depth, gets it in zone 2 though, doesn't get the depth. Thiem's kind of neutral in his movement back here. He's sort of zigzagging a little bit up and down. He gets aggressive with depth there, okay? A lot of topspin. Djokovic has conceded that he's in a poor position as far as being on defense, so he's backed up quite a bit. He's given up some ground, okay? He's realized it. Hits short again. They just sort of proceed to rally here. Thiem hits short there. That would have been an opportunity for Djokovic to do something. Thiem hits this backhand, hits a really weak ball in zone 1. Want to see Djokovic moving more aggressively up to this and really damaging Thiem off this ball. He doesn't do much with it. Gets a little depth there, which is fine, but could have done more. And they're just trading back and forth. Thiem hits a small target. Djokovic does the same. And then Djokovic tries to finish with a drop shot. Let's move on to the second example now. And in this point, again, we've got Djokovic again serving ad side. Thiem returning, starting with that really deep position. Let's see what he does, though. He moves forward to meet the ball, 8.3 feet or so to receive that ball. So he moves quite a bit from his initial position here. Moves in to meet it. Meets it with the forehand out in front. Again, super deep return to the middle and puts Djokovic in that really awkward defensive position. Djokovic, one of the best in the world at handling these balls and neutralizing this damage, right? Or even countering. But this is a really awkward and tough position. So let's see where Djokovic landed there, right? Inside the baseline. He has to scramble back. He moved quite a bit to receive that ball, over 7 feet of total movement just to receive that. And then does a pretty good job though, considering he short hopped this at about knee height and ends up getting that ball basically into zone 3, right? Which is pretty incredible and pretty remarkable. Let's see what Thiem does. He goes damage here. Big damage down the line, zone 3. Djokovic again hits short. It's a tough spot to be in. He's in zone 5. He's conceding position because he's not hitting strong enough balls to Thiem. Thiem gets zone 1. And this time, Thiem does damage by moving Djokovic, not with the depth per se, but just moving him from left to right. And he had the ball to do it with. He had a ball here weak. Just take this on a straight line. Depth would have been even better, but he had the pace. Hurt him again. Djokovic does the best he can. Gets zone 2, right? Thiem rails another ball with pace. Deep in zone 3. Still has Djokovic on defense. Djokovic was hoping off of this ball. You can see he's here. He was hoping to move up here and get a better ball to work with, but that just didn't happen, right? Thiem nails another one. Djokovic is forced to short hop this. And again, Djokovic's hands, taking the ball early and how he controls the ball with his hands, best in the world right now. Finds zone 3 off of Thiem's destruction shot. Thiem takes this off his back foot. Now he gets damaged a little bit. Changes direction again. Finds zone 2. Djokovic takes that opportunity, right, to move from back here a little bit. Gets a deep ball, and he moves a little bit in from where he was. Cross short. Thiem again, another deep ball. We've got 4 balls for Thiem that are close to the baseline at this point with a lot of pace. That's a lot. It's incredible. It's really good. Djokovic scrambles again, hits short in zone 2 this time. Thiem, doesn't get as much depth here, but still pretty good. Still zone 3, front of zone 3-ish, and close to the single sidelines, close to the small target area. Djokovic is running again, and this time he had to move again from over here. Yes, he splits here, but he has to scramble all the way over. And makes the error, right? He's forced into an error, but that's just another example of a really good point, obviously, but Thiem doing damage off of that return just to the middle. When you take your return to the middle, you're doing damage in the safest possible way to set yourself up, hopefully for a next shot that's a weak shot from your opponent. And what I mean by that is you're not aiming, if we see this, you're not aiming for the sidelines. When you aim for the sidelines, if you're doing it from the wrong positions or the wrong situations, you're taking a lot more risk than you need to. So the reason that this middle return is so effective is, 1, the returner is moving inside the baseline no matter what. And then 2, you're aiming at the biggest part of the court here. You got the most real estate to work with. You can be a little off and still hit a really effective shot as long as you get the depth. And if you've got pace on top of that, even better. All right, so now let's talk about the one thing that people want to talk about people doing, but that nobody actually seems to be doing, and that's coming to the net. To my knowledge, we currently don't have a top 50 player on the male side of the tour that is a serve and volley player and that also chips and charges, okay? It's really, really rare to see it. It's more of a surprise tactic. Over the course of this 5-set match, a really long match, we only had a total of 48 net appearances between our 2 players, okay? Really low number. But what we find that's happening these days versus the past, right, versus the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, is that guys are so good off the baseline that they're just picking and choosing their spots that are sort of guaranteed spots where they feel like they can come in and finish a point. So let's look at some examples of this, but let's also look at the number of times both guys came to the net and the percentage of points that they won. So we can see both guys came to the net a total of 24 times. Thiem won a higher percentage of his net points, but Djokovic has gotten a lot better at the net in the last year. His hands have gotten better. He has better feel. He's definitely worked on his net game. The same thing with Thiem. Thiem used to have pretty rough hands at the net. He's gotten a lot better at the net and his ability to finish off points. All right, so here we've got Djokovic serving, right? Thiem in that deep zone 5 position, but we know that he starts back a lot of times and he'll scooch in a little bit too on a lot of these serve returns. So let's see what happens here. Djokovic serves wide, and Thiem does close that gap quite a bit considering where he started from, right? Djokovic is inside the court here again off that serve. Thiem hits a pretty decent return. It could be deeper. And what we see a lot of is what I like to call step back. Like in basketball, they use the term step back. That's what you see a lot on the forehand side is guys will move around the backhand here or move around to hit a forehand and they'll step back. So watch Djokovic step back. And then they still take an aggressive shot if they don't have to step back a lot or if the return isn't that strong. And that's what we see here. Return in zone 2 from Thiem, right? A little bit of pace, but it's in zone 2. Djokovic with the step back forehand here. Hits it inside out. And he's got Thiem scrambling. And the one thing about this too is when Djokovic makes contact with this ball, the reason we know he's going to go here, besides the contact being a little bit further back and the position of the hips and shoulders, that right shoulder is still more closed off. If he was going to go cross with this, that right shoulder right here would be more open at this point at the contact and not so closed off. But because the contact's a little further back, that right shoulder gives it away. It's a little further back too, that he's going to go this way. He's not going to take it here. So we see this. And what we see from Thiem is Thiem doesn't know where this is going. He's not reading this well because he's staying over on this side of the court, right? He's not reading this properly. He's not seeing that Djokovic is going here. And I get it that you don't have time to really figure this out, right? On the court, you don't really know. But Djokovic has incredible instincts at being able to determine this on the fly. So here, hits a small target in zone 2, which is plenty in this situation. Thiem literally ran from one side of the court to the other. He covered 25 feet or 23 feet, a ton of ground here. And Djokovic sees that Thiem is going to slice this backhand. He's up in this position. So he's running in knowing that that's coming because of the amount of distance he has to cover. And he's a one-hander, right? Djokovic sneaks in. He has gotten a lot better at the net. And we see here just a little nice touch drop volley, right? So really nice example here of a very typical play. So the typical play, and when you see a lot of guys coming in, is off their serve, but it's not a true serve and volley. It's a serve +1 plus a volley, okay? So kind of a serve +2. So a lot of times they'll swing that serve out, get the guy positioned off the court, try to get a weaker return in terms of the depth, and that's what he got here. Hits a little step back forehand. Now he sneaks in once he knows it's more of a sure thing. And then he drops that volley short. And that's a situation that we see on the tour with a lot of people now instead of just a true serve and volley, okay? It's more of a serve +2. All right, let's move on to the next point now. And this time, we're going to look at it from Thiem's perspective, right? So Thiem is a server here. And we've got him on the deuce side again. And this can occur on either side and with any variety of serve. We just have this certain scenario set up here. But Thiem hits this really nice slice serve. Djokovic does an incredible job of even reaching this and extending out and even touching that ball. Incredible hands again. But you can see here, he does a pretty good job considering what he was working with of getting zone 3, basically the front part of zone 3, back of zone 2, considering where he was and how stretched he was. It's really remarkable that you can have this balance position and still even achieve that, okay? It's off the charts. So what Thiem does again, okay, a little bit of that step back forehand. He had to step back a little bit more in his movement here because Djokovic's return was a little bit deeper than he expected probably. So he steps back, step back forehand. And again, by the contact point, by the shoulder rotation, we're going here. Also, the court's wide open with Djokovic being over here. He isn't as far as Thiem was over when Thiem had to run that previous point and shot down, but he's pretty far over. So he hits an absolute laser here. Beautiful shot deep in zone 3. So it's not as far to the corner, but because he got the depth, he's forcing Djokovic here to get into that slice backhand position, okay? He's forcing it with the depth and pace. Djokovic runs over. Thiem senses floater because he's got the slice. It's going to be extremely difficult from this position for Djokovic to hit a slice backhand and to get that up and down short in front of Thiem's feet in this situation, okay? He's really probably not going to be able to do that. So he pops it up because he's trying to get depth. Thiem knows this. He's sneaking in, does a nice job with his movement to the ball. Nice high contact point and backhand volley. Sticks it to a small target and then finishes the point. But it was all set up here with the wide serve placement, and it could have been a T serve as well. You can stretch guys with this T serve and get weak returns here too. It's not just that it's a wide serve, but this opportunity really gets the guy off the court, right? When you serve wide like this. So serves it wide, Djokovic gets that depth, step back forehand, and then comes in and pokes the point away. So just remember, that is one of the most common tactics for a server or even a returner, but a server to get an opportunity to come to the net. It's more of a serve plus 2 situation a lot of the times. They're really looking to work the serve placement, get a weaker return that they can work with, hit an aggressive shot, get them completely out of position with that one, and then come in and finish. All right, so that wraps it up for our Australian Open men's final coverage and our full stats and 3D analysis breakdown. Make sure you visit our Patreon page if you want to help support us there so we can make more content like this. It takes quite a long time to do these full stats and 3D analysis breakdown videos. We really enjoy doing them and want to do more, so visit us on Patreon. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell so that when new videos for TennisUnleashed.net go up, you get instantly notified. I'm Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net. We'll see you next time.